I gave you an outline, and we'll follow it roughly, but it's going to be kind of me telling the story of my little business. Obviously, I've been a teacher here at St. James Academy for 12 years now. I taught for 1 year back in Iowa, and then I came up here, or down here, I guess, from Iowa, and started to teach. I always was, if you look at my little thing there, I've always had a job. Okay, that's kind of part of my story. My first job was a paper boy. I was a paper boy for the Creston News Advertiser. It was a daily. I made $60 a month every day working for about an hour. So if you put that together, what's that? I made about $2 a day, which isn't very good wages, right? But if you're 12 years old, it's not bad, I guess. It's some money to go to Casey's with, that sort of stuff. Through high school, I worked at a restaurant. For all 4 years, I worked at the Windrow Restaurant and Lounge as a busboy and a greeter, like the guy that seats you. I got to talk to people. I liked that a lot. Went to college. I played baseball in college. I called that kind of my job. I did that for 4 years, and then my fourth and fifth year, I had a fifth year in college, and I worked for the facilities department at Kinnick Stadium, which is the football stadium. I still say that was the best job I'd ever had because I got to those guys that pull the rope up for the net, for the field goals and that sort of thing. That was my job, and we got to set the football field up for all the games. 70,000 people came and had a party with us, and we worked all year to basically get the stadium ready for that. And that kind of set me up. Was the first job that kind of set me up for what my business is now. The second job I roofed in college. It sucked. I would not suggest roofing ever. Okay, I worked for 2 summers. It was me, my friend Lance Geyer, and my other friend Travis Rupp. We called ourselves Guns and Hoses. Roofing, we were subcontractors for a guy like me who kind of would rather have someone else do the work, but was not afraid to go get the jobs. And I did that for 2 summers and learned a lot about how construction works. Learned a lot about how just the innards of a home work and how water acts and that sort of thing. And that's kind of how the job has come today. 3 things. If you look at the top there, I put a quote on there. And this is something I know my baseball boys have heard me say this before, but this is I think if you're going to be an entrepreneur, this is something that you have to have in your soul. Your drive to be successful must overcome your fear of failure. I took a big risk last year. I went part-time. So some of you, I don't know some of you. I used to know a lot of people at St. James. Now I'm just here part-time. I'm here on B days is all. Because, one, we had a baby. My wife Beth and I, we had a baby, Ruby. She's awesome. I wanted to spend a little more time with her because my wife travels a lot. My wife's actually in North Carolina all this week. So it's daddy duty, and I've been running around doing that. But the other part of this was to start building the business. Because I had started it, what did I say there, in 2000, what year was it? 2013. So the summer of 2013, 14, 15, and now 16. So this is my 4th year of being a fully incorporated LLC, which is, I don't know if you guys have covered that yet, but an LLC is called a limited liability company, which basically allows me to work independently from my own personal finances. So this is a note that you could put. I don't know if you, because you see that on TV quite a bit. A lot of law firms are LLCs, or different companies have LLC at the end of their name, and it basically says that if I get sued for something crazy that happens on the job, they can only take the business assets that I have accrued. So if whatever's in my business, they can sue me for whatever's in that, but my home, my personal residence, my personal vehicles, my kids' college fund, they can't come after that. So it's a level of tax security, I guess you could say. Okay? You want to listen? Mr. Huppy wanted to learn something today, so he came in.
Thank you very much.
So that's kind of how the business started. But it really started because of this. Okay, Mr. Webker, in your personal finance class, you guys have talked about Dave Ramsey, right?
I've gotten started on the baby steps and
okay.
done quite a bit on budgeting.
Okay, so budgeting and the baby steps. So basically, I call it my 5-year plan. And this started, and I joked with some of my friends about this. I'm like, yeah, I'm on a 5-year plan, guys. I'm on a 5-year plan. And this is actually year 5 of this plan. Not that it was an actual, something on the calendar that I wanted to do, but I wanted to get out of debt. And I found a girl that I wanted to marry, and I figured that I didn't want to, go into marriage in a whole bunch of debt. So I actually put some of my numbers on there. If you look there, it said at the bottom there, I didn't actually tell you how much. I had $9,000 in student loans. Sorry, but we had 2 cars. My wife has a Honda Civic, and I've got an F-150. We owed about $25,000 on vehicles. We had a wedding that was upcoming, and then we had a kid, which costs money too. And so basically, and this 5-year plan was basically me telling myself that I need to pick my game up a little bit. Just to be honest, we make, I don't know, $45,000 as a teacher, and for me to look at my family and start looking at providing for a kid and providing for another person in the home, whether she was going to work or not, I knew that I had to get my act in gear a little bit. So I started working extra jobs. And so basically what we did, we started getting after it. Basically, I started working a lot. Beth even said, well, actually, as of probably a month and a half ago, I finally said to her, Beth, I'm done working Saturdays. I said that, and then like 3 weeks later, I was working on a Saturday. But she had said that she had never known me in our 4.5, 5-year relationship. She had never known me not to work on a Saturday. She's like, we never hang out on Saturday during the day. We never watched a K-State. She's a K-State. We never watched a K-State football game together. We never watched an Iowa football game together, because I was always doing something, and that was for the past 5 years. I've been doing this, and so kind of with that quote at the top is that I knew that for me to be successful, I had to put the work in, and work in this. Work for you guys might be making the varsity team or whatever, but work for me was getting out of how many $1,000s of debt. We paid almost $50,000 off in 2 years, which is no small feat, because if you hung out with us, we didn't do a whole lot. We still lived our lives. We still would go out to eat every now and again. Beth travels for work, and so she gets a ton of points for her travel and stuff. So we got free flights taken care of here or there, and she gets like hotel points and that while she's out. So we would still go on our trips and still live our lives, kind of vacation here and there, because of some of the perks of her work. And it didn't come out of our realistic personal budget. So basically, when I talk about this whole business, it was a personal management problem that turned into an entrepreneurship. I don't even know how to spell entrepreneurship, so I'm just going to do that. I'm the PE teacher, right? So because we wanted to get out of debt, because I started working these extra hours, that's where the business started. Coach Muehlberger and I, realistically, here in Kansas City, started with Christmas lights. I don't know if any of you guys get Christmas lights put on your house or not. But by the time, 3 years ago, we split up. But when I left him, we had about 80 houses together we did, between him and I. So as we built that business up, I started buying all my own equipment. I bought a truck. I have about 6 or 7 ladders. All that sort of stuff, just kind of built up the equipment for that, and then went off on my own. And so I started kind of with my clientele of about 25 houses. I'm up to about 40 houses now with the Christmas lights. I bought him out of about 20 of those. So I actually had to write him a big check to get, to buy part of his business out from underneath him, which, if you've talked about, finance or whatever, that's how, people get started sometimes. And that's how it kind of worked. So that kind of goes on to what we do here. We do interior and exterior painting now. We do wood rot repair. Actually, this morning I went out off of 87th and Lackman, repaired, did some siding repair. I tore, basically 5 whole sheets of this guy's house off last week. We put it all back up. He actually helped me. The homeowner helped me. We put all that back up. We sealed it all up. He painted it, and then we still had some siding to do. So I was, I told Coach Sig, I was sweat all the way through. It's hot out. I was sweat through by about 9 o'clock this morning already, and had to get here and clean up and that sort of thing. So on these 8 days, I'm out busting it, trying to make sure this business is moving forward. We'll keep talking about this. So we do wood rot repair. So that's like siding. Lots of times windows around the window sills, the sills will get really bad, and so we'll tear those out, replace those. We do deck repair, rebuild and maintenance, because, think about your decks at home. Sometimes after a while they start to get mushy, and so we'll come in and take the wood out. And I always say it's not super skilled work, I guess you could say. You have to have done it a few times usually before you start to get the hang of it. I will say that. The first couple times on jobs, I'm like, holy crap, what am I doing? These people are paying me to tear their house up and then make it look nice again. And it was nervous. It was really nervous. And there were a couple jobs, I'll be honest, there were a couple jobs where we kind of walked away from each other just like, okay, I guess we're done. And that was hard. That was hard for my pride, but I learned a whole heck of a lot. Learned how much perfection you have to have. Your attention to detail on the finishing of everything. I had a couple guys work for me this summer that you guys probably know, but I would always ask them, "Would your dad be okay with that?" It's like, think about your parents, think about your own house. It's like if you walked outside and you can see through the hole in your house. It's like if your dad was paying someone to do that job, would they be happy with it? And so, who you need? Man. And so we learned a lot on the job with that. Holiday lighting, we talked about that. I got about 40 some houses we do. Other handyman services, I call them the hey bucks of life. That's kind of how a lot of how this started too. I call them the hey bucks. Hey Buck, what are you doing this weekend? You want to come over and do this? Hey Buck, da 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 da. And we kind of, I was always a guy that I was single at St. James Academy for 9 years of living and working here in Kansas City, and so I had kind of a lot of free time, and so I wasn't never afraid to go and help someone out. And I kind of learned a lot of these skills along the way. I'll show you a few pictures. On the marketing side, I'm not a huge marketer. We've done enough business. I'll say this: at the start of the summer, at the end of baseball season last year, we had 12 jobs lined up for the summer, which were about, I think we had 7 paint jobs, which are full exterior paint jobs. We had a couple wood rot repair things. We had a couple deck repair, that sort of stuff. Deck stainings. We do a lot of deck stainings and fence staining and that sort of thing. We painted Weldon's house this summer. It looks amazing, doesn't it, Brock?
Looks great.
Looks great. See. And so we've kind of through the St. James community, we get most of our jobs from there. We do have a website. I don't say a website. People ask me, "Oh, how do I, do you have a website?" I was like, "Well, I have a Facebook page," because I've been busy enough just through referrals and that. Why isn't that going Oh, I get it. I'm a teacher. I know how to do this. How do you make that bigger, Keen? It's Facebook. There you go. Okay, so this is a house we did. The best part about my job is that I work for myself and I can kind of do whatever I want. This was a job that I did on a weekend. I painted a whole interior of a house by myself in about 13 hours and it was a $2,000 job. So on the weekend I made $2,000. I said, Beth, it's like, I want to go do this job. A realtor called me up. Lots of times realtors need people, you know, it's like, hey, right now, it's like we're going to put this house on the market in a week. We need this painted today because they're going to come in and finish the floors, this and that. I charge a little bit extra for the right now aspect of it, but we painted the interior of this. It's a little 2-bedroom house down in Waldo, and it sold in about 3 days. Here's some other. This is actually my rental property. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It's up in Atchison. It's a house we did this summer, so we don't do small stuff. This is kind of the coolest job I think we've done so far. Is a complete deck rebuild, and we built a pergola on this thing. And I basically did this all by myself. I basically spent from probably September of last year till about, I don't know, I don't think I was done in the springtime of last year.
It was towards the end of the school year, I thought.
Okay, yeah, so the guy was like, hey, and what's funny, to talk about some of the finances behind this, he got 3 bids before I went there. One was $50,000, one was $45,000, and one was $35,000 to build this. And I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. It's like, I think I can do this. But I had never done it before. And so I gave him a deal. I was like, okay, I'll just charge you my hourly rate to do carpentry stuff. And I charge $50 an hour for my carpentry. And so we did, we ended up spending, like I said, when I say it took me that long, I'm part-time teaching and all this stuff. And all told, the job cost $22,000 with materials and that, and I made about 10 on it. The rest of it was materials. But I started looking at this and I was like, you know, it's not that bad of a gig. It's something I like to do. It ended up turning out pretty cool. These people love it. They've called me a couple times. They're like, hey, we're sitting on the deck. They put a TV up in this corner over here so they can watch. His goal was to be able to watch opening day on his new deck, and we made that happen for him. We built a little bar out there, kind of a little privacy fence. Did some little cool things with that. The bar turned out neat. It wasn't real ornate, but got the job done. But it's that's a deck stain we did, or a fence stain. I mean, not super hard stuff to do. This is actually the Rips house, Derek and Blake Rips house. I love doing cabinets. This is a big house in Falcon Ridge. You can make a lot of money doing this because it's really detailed work. Again, kind of I think you'll know this in most of the world. The more detailed, the more finite, the better it has to be, the more money you make on things. You know, if you're just paying someone to dig a hole in your backyard, you can throw him a 6-pack of beer and pat him on the butt and say, thanks, brother. Okay, but when you're doing stuff like this in a $500,000 home, trying to make all of these things look pretty good, in a week's time, I pulled all those off, sanded them all down, we spray them all. That was about a $3,500 job in about a week's time. And we started crunching the numbers on some of this stuff, and it's a lot of extra work because I still teach, I still coach. In the springtime, I don't get a whole lot done hardly at all because we're doing baseball and all that. Again, a lot of Saturdays, that sort of thing. But it ends up working out. Any questions so far? Maybe this would be a good time. Yes, sir.
Well, they should probably ask questions first, but I'm so curious, are you self-taught, mentor-taught, or college-taught, or all of the above on this stuff?
I have well, I think I put it in there. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I put my ACT in there. I was a 3.7 in high school, 25 ACT. So I'm no rocket scientist. I got my history major. I was a history major at Iowa. Got my teacher certification, and then I kind of just have always done this stuff on the side. So self-taught, I would say yes. The most equipment I bought, realistically, I didn't say this earlier, the reason why I bought all my painting equipment, because I'm pretty cheap too, okay? I don't like spending money, and so me being cheap and it's like, heck, I could do this. I bought a paint sprayer and just started kind of tearing my own house up about 5 or 6 years ago, because I was like, screw that, I'm not paying someone $3,000 to paint this, which I can probably do this. And so, again, that was kind of the first leap of faith on, one, buying equipment, because when you talk about buying the equipment itself, if you want to run the numbers on this, just startup costs alone, is this what you want to hear, Mr. Concilio? Some of the stuff on this? Overhead, right? This is what we call this. You guys talked about overhead yet? No? What is overhead? Yeah, so anything you got to spend before you can do something. So a truck, how much does an F-150 cost?
$24,000.
How many? 24,000? That was close. Mine was 18. How much does a ladder cost? How much does 28-foot ladder cost? For about $400. Okay, so ladders, I got about 5 ladders. What's 4 times 5? 2,000 bucks. I got so many stupid tools. If you ever need a tool, let me know. I probably have, I would say, around $10,000 in just random tools. Between ladder jacks and power tools and this, that, and the other. Every little chisel you want. I got toys on toys on toys. Maybe not that much. We'll say 5. What else? Insurance. Okay, I have liability insurance and workman's comp, because, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And that's $2,000 a year. We won't even talk about wages in all of this, because I got a crew. Coach Webker works cheap, but we did his house this summer. I think we got pictures of you in here. I don't know if we do or not. That might be on my regular Facebook page. Anyway, labor is the biggest part of this. I would say that if I'm doing the job, I want to make at least 30% profit on it. And lots of times there are jobs that I won't even set foot on. There's probably 3 jobs this summer that I just gave to my boys and said, all right guys, get it done in a week and a half. Said, I want to be back here next Wednesday and this is going to be done. And I'll come and check on you as we go. But those are the nice ones. This is called management. Huh? This is labor. That's getting after it. And then this is management. This is the best part of it, except when something goes bad. And then Big Daddy's got to come in. Okay? But you're looking at, just off the top, that's 20, that's 25, 27. Okay, so just kind of to get the needed materials to get off the ground was about almost 30 grand. And then you start looking at that stuff, you start coughing a little bit. And we did all of this while we were trying to get out of debt and everything. So this number right here is basically Coach Bucklin busting his rear end for a lot of hours that you guys didn't see, which is fine. and Beth and I are looking at each other now, and I think we're in a pretty good place. Moving on, how we do it. All right. So this is kind of how we did it. We have a truck. Mr. Keith helps us out. He's my sprayer. If you ask him, he's sprayed. He might not have picked up a paintbrush this summer, and we painted probably 14 houses. Okay, where he's my guy that he comes and he sprays everything, and then I have a crew of about 4 other guys that they're my trim guys. They'll go around and do all the finishing stuff and trim it up, and then I come in and do most of the wood rot. If there's any wood rot on a house, we have to do all that first before we can start coming and painting it. And the best thing about it is my guys are getting better. At the beginning of the summer, I was just like, oh geez, it's gonna be a long summer, a lot of gray hairs. But they worked hard, and they got better. I'm actually one of my guys, and him and I are gonna go do a siding job on Friday in Lawrence. We're basically tearing this guy's house. It's a small house, but we'll tear basically the whole side of his house off in the morning and put it all back up in the afternoon, and hopefully be done in a day, and make a good chunk of change doing it. So we've gotten better. In this management side, this is what, if we get busy enough, this is what we'd love to have do. I told those boys all the time this summer, it's like, I'd love to have it where all next summer, we could line up 20 jobs. And it's like, all right, guys, about every 1.5 to 2 weeks, we should have a house done. And the balance between productivity and quality is probably the biggest thing that maybe any small business owner or big business owner has to deal with. Because if you do something quick but crappy, then they're going to call you back and say redo it, and then obviously you lose money on both sides of things there. You lose on labor, on time, and your credibility. So we try to do things right the first time as we go. It's kind of like you guys doing your homework. You do an English paper crappy the first time, you get a D on it. Like, oh, can I do that over so I can get some points for it? When we do that, we don't get to eat. We're starving. What other questions? Any questions? Stephens, you got a question?
Coach, how do taxes work there?
Oh, taxes. I hate taxes.
Yeah, I know. We all do.
Okay. Taxes. We call it quarterly estimates. As contract labor, actually, let's talk about this for a second. What's a contractor? Contractor. What is a contractor?
They're like the ones who actually build the house and stuff.
Okay. Just to break it down even further, contract labor. How many of you have your lawn mowed for you? Okay. So if you have your lawn mowed for you, you have someone doing contract labor for you. Okay, where they say, okay, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money to perform this task. Okay, your parents may be contract labor. My accountant is contract labor. She tells me it's going to be $300 to do my taxes. I go, okay, and she does my taxes, and that's contract labor. A mechanic. Well, maybe not mechanics. They work by the hour. Huh? A coach. A coach is contract labor. I make my X amount of dollars to be the baseball coach at St. James Academy. No matter how many hours I put in or how little hours I put in, I still get paid the same amount. Okay? So a contractor, and so at St. James Academy, I'm a teacher. I get, because they're my employer, they take taxes out over the top. I don't know what the tax rates are. Coach Webster might know these better. If you make less than, was it $115,000? Is that the next one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You make $115,000 or less, I think you're in the 25% tax bracket, right? Ish.
Is there one between 25 and
Yeah, it goes to like 37.5.
Okay.
So 37.5 to like 115 is the 25.
Okay, so this is where we swim, or at least my business swims. So taxes work like this. So my best month, gross, June and July are my two best months. We gross probably around, I don't know, shoot, between $20,000 and $25,000. I'd have to look at it. We'll just say 20 to make it round. So that's doing about 10 jobs essentially. If I can do 10 jobs in a month in the summertime, we're grossing that. Labor, I pay out of that labor. I have so here's two ways to do it too. Contract labor. So say the weldings contracted me to paint their house. They just give me a flat amount. They're like, all right, Brian, I take 50% at the front and 50% when we're done. And in between that, there's no protection, okay? So the weldings have nothing that they have to worry about on their property as long as the contractor's insured. So here's a little side thing for you. I don't even know how to spell insured. You know what that means. Put this in your notes. You should never hire a contractor unless they have insurance, okay? Because what this happens is if they get hurt on your property, say I'm at Welding's house and I fall off the ladder and break my neck, and I don't have insurance on my company, then the homeowner is liable, okay? And that's a big deal because I got a wife and kid, and then all of a sudden I can't do everything I need to do. What do you need, Coach? You got it?
Got it.
Okay. So insurance is a huge thing. So because of I have a legit company, now this matters over here. Because if I just hired my guys, my 5 guys in the summertime, they you okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So back here. So if I just hire my guys in the summertime, I just give them, their wages. I just give them their wages under the table. Say, hey, buddy, here's your $200 for working this week. Then there's no protection for them. But I have kids who, they're college kids. They're people. There's families that I know. They're people I care about. They're not just any Joe off the street. I care about them. So, and we're getting to the tax question. But with this, I have to protect my employees. And so I offer them insurance, liability insurance, so that if they ever put a ladder through a window or something like that, then the company takes the hit. They don't have to pay for it out of their own pocket. They have workman's comp insurance, so that if something does happen to them on the job, then they're taken care of. Mr. Rapp used to work for me before he became Dr. Rapp. When he was young and hungry like me, he would work for me. But I had to look Megan Rapp in the eye, and I tell you what, if you have to mess with Megan Rapp, you're going to have your hands are full on that. So I said, Megan, he's at least fully insured. And he's got $1 million of insurance behind him. If something stupid happens, he's going to be taken care of. So with that, once you become a fully incorporated business with insurance and the LLC, then you have to pay payroll tax. Okay, so with this, say out of this $20,000, I'm probably paying around 50% of that in wages. Okay, so they get taxes taken out, and then I have to pay a payroll tax as well. So I pay about I think it's 7% on everything that I have to pay out. So they ding me. So if your parents have small businesses, they probably feel my pain on this. And then probably another 25% is maybe not that much, but somewhere in there is materials. So I buy all of the paint, all of the siding, all of the whatever we need for the jobs, and then whatever the butter's on top is what I make. Okay, and then so taxes on that, say that might be a little low. I made more than $5,000 in June, but say it's just $5,000 that I have to pay taxes on that. So the 5%, then I go to my accountant and say, hey, it's quarterly, so you go every 3 months. So it's like, so for June, July, and August, I told my accountant what I made, an estimate, and then I wrote the government a $4,000 check the other day, okay, for my taxes, so that I don't have to come April all of a sudden have to poop out $5,000 because I'm like, oh, I didn't pay it all. So we try to stay on top of it while we have the money in the bank, and so it's a little bit. So taxes go out with my employees on their payroll. They actually get a payroll check. I can't remember the name of the company that does it for me. I golf with the guy. He's a good dude. Takes care of me. I'm painting his house in a couple weeks. That's how this goes. And then do that. You learn a lot. I'll tell you this. Once you start getting bigger, I'm like, my God, I learned, just talking to my accountant, talking to other people in the business, best practice. I think this is something that everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur should have in their vocabulary. Understanding what a good company in your field looks like, and then talking to other people who do that well, and then pick their brain about it. Buy them a beer, take them out to breakfast, whatever it is. That is important. We as teachers do it. We teachers talk about this all the time. We coaches get together and go to conventions and listen to other people talk and steal their stuff. It's kind of how this works. All right. Questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Yeah, Will.
Yeah,
The
so
ping pong man.
Yeah.
What's
so
up?
how do you like decide what your the cost is for different jobs, especially the odd jobs?
Yeah.
Asking you to be on
Okay, so there's two types of this. The contract labor, and then the hourly. Okay. Most of the odd jobs that I do, like odd jobs will be a lot of the carpentry, wood rot stuff. I pay that by the hour. I charge $50 an hour plus materials. So like this morning, I went and did that siding job. I got there at a little before 9 and worked till about 11:15. So I made, what's that? Made almost $200. Okay, just showing up and working. Got it done. I'll send him an invoice. Done. Okay. The contract, so this is kind of my carpentry. So this is easy. By the hour, it's pretty cut and dry. When I go, say if I go to your house, Will, and say, hey, we're going to do this siding, I'm going to give you an estimate. I'm going to say, hey, I think it'll take me a morning to do this. So at most, it's probably going to be, I always try to overshoot. It's going to be $350 to do this job plus materials. That job, because we did some of his backyard too, was $702, and $350 of it was materials, was labor. So, and that was just the job I just got done with, and so I bid it pretty well on. I think I was like at $800. Again, I tried to overestimate, and we ended up at $702, and he was happy. Okay, the contract labor. This is kind of for the painting. Like when we did Welding's house, I say, all right, Jeff Welding, it's going to be X amount to do this job. And he goes, all right, Brian, let's put it on the book. And so then, basically, the productivity kicks into play. If we can get this job done in 3 days, and I'm making, I'm making a lot of money if we get it done in 3 days. I give my guys bonuses. I tell them, hey, if we get this house done, we did Mrs. Clary. Jan Clary has a rental house off of Antioch and 87th. And she hired us this summer. It's like, all right, guys, if we get this house done in 3 days, we started on a Monday and we were done on Wednesday. I was going to give them each a $50 bill, which, when you're making $12 an hour, a $50 bill all of a sudden kicks your wage up a whole lot, especially after 3 days of work. And so that $150 I spent in the $50 bonus for each one, I made about $700 because they didn't have to pay him for another day of work. And so we incentivize some things that way. But to answer your question, these bigger jobs, I just basically give them, okay, it's going to be this much, and if we get it done quickly, then I make more money. There are jobs that I make no money on. I'll be honest with you there. It sucks when that happens, and that's when I get pissed.
So do you like, just like know from experience?
Yeah.
Just like different.
We pretty much know that when we walk up to a house in Johnson County out here, it's going to be between $3,000 and $5,000 to do a job like that. Sometimes more. I mean, if you get in some of the bigger neighborhoods, it's pretty standard. In most, and I will say that we are on the higher side of the because there's. We'll just say this: there's about 3 different kinds of contractors in at least the painting world. You've got the really hungry guys, we'll say. Is that a way to put it? You need to that bid it really low and just need the job just to keep food on the table, that sort of thing. And then I'm kind of in the middle, where I'm not real hungry because I have a job. I like to do jobs that, if it's a job I don't want to do, I'll charge them a whole lot. And sometimes I get the job and sometimes I don't. There was a house in Lake Quivira, big house in Lake Quivira. Have you guys been out there before? There's some big houses in Lake Quivira. And we did, I started bidding this job, and I have a 40-foot ladder. And if you've ever been on a 40-foot ladder, it's not much fun. I always give my guys an extra $20 bill every time they go up the 40-foot ladder on a day, because it sucks. Especially when you have a wife and a kid. You start thinking about them a whole lot when you're on top of a 40-foot ladder. And so this house was on the side of a hill, and it was a big house, and then so the 40-foot ladder would have gotten to where we needed to get to, and then it fell off the side probably about 15 to 20 feet down, just because everything's kind of on the side of a hill out there. And I go, all right, if this was on a flat ground, it'd probably be about $5,000 to do. And he's like, well, that's not bad. And he goes, but then that one side of your house is, you know, I might as well put, you know, a coffin at the end of there, at the bottom of my ladder, because if I fall, I'm just going to go right there anyway. And so I bumped it up about $3,000 or $4,000. He's like, really? You're going to bump it up that much for that? I was like, yes. I was like, if we fall off of that side, we're going to die, you know? And so I was like, what I will do is like, I will subcontract that out to someone else because I'm not doing it. And then they're going to charge me that, at least that much to do it. And so, because it was up on a really steep thing, and we had to pull siding off because we had to do some wood rot up there. And there was what I call a little pet roof that you couldn't actually get to the spot that you had to get to without saying a lot of 4-letter words and a lot of prayers. And it's not something that we were going to do. And so I was straight up with the guy. He's like, it's either going to be $9,000 to get your house painted, or you can have someone else do it. And he never called me back. Which I'm like, I'm okay with that, because I would rather go home to my wife and kid than risk my life and limb trying to do something like that. So we run into that, but we're basically kind of in the middle. And I make my money, and I think everybody who hires someone to do a job is, you know, they're hiring you because they don't want to do the work, and so they're expecting to pay something. And you know, most people get multiple bids where, you know, some are low, some are high, some are right in the middle. Like that deck I talked about, you know, he got a $50,000, he got a $45,000, and a $35,000, and his budget was right around $20,000, and we were close to that. If I ever did that job again with the deck and everything, it would probably be in the $30,000 range-ish, and that's a pretty good payday. And then you start, you know, comparing that to teacher salaries, and you're like, well, shoot, I can almost make more money on the weekends than I can teaching your lovely souls. Love you guys too. This money isn't that good. Anyway, any questions about that?
I guess I did have a question, like, what were you thinking? You talked about it a little bit right here, but expansion. Did you
Yeah.
looking for a huge expansion or just kind of staying in the?
Good question. This is the hardest question you
Jason
can ask
here,
right now. My guys are getting better. You know, it's kind of like, you know, what's a good example? Bill Gates. Bill Gates is the smartest guy in America, right? But he's got the other 10,000 smartest people in the world working for him too. Okay? I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but the guys that work for me now are getting good enough where they can start to do jobs on their own. And that's where expansion comes from. That's where I kind of said, you know, if I can get 20 to 25 jobs at the beginning of next summer, and I know that my guys can do 4 to 7 of those, then all of a sudden the numbers start to get real good. And when I say real good, I mean I'm probably making another $20,000 to $25,000 a summer just by those guys doing the work. So it kind of depends on your labor force.
You wanted to get to a point too where you actually don't have to do any more physical work than just like taking.
Now you're talking. Yes. And there, you know, we'll be honest, there's lots of times, if you look at crews out there, they're minorities. Latino crews, I've very much thought about hiring some guys like that and just letting them go. Because they'll work all day, every day for, you know, I'm not going to say less money, but maybe less money. And do a good job, and that's all. They're hungry. They would fall if, you know, we said that we got the high, the middle, and low. I'm kind of in the middle to high. Those would be the guys that were kind of down here. But I still charge this, and then I get that. And they're still working all day, every day. I'm getting paid just for management. And if we get to the point where, you know, maybe I can integrate some of my guys into that crew and say, all right, you just be my eyes and ears there, be able to communicate with the homeowner, that sort of thing, and basically kind of be a foreman on those crews, then that would be a possibility. There are crews out there all the time that kind of go one way or the other. I think there are big paint companies out there that are, you know, might have 4 to 5 crews that are working all day, every day. And then there are guys like me who like, you know, maybe it's hard to expand because then that productivity and quality, the quality part of it is the biggest thing that you have to, because I still have to answer to the homeowner. If I'm doing Concilio's house, yeah, my crew goes over, they get it knocked out in 3 days, and then he goes, that sucks, that sucks, that sucks, that he's, you know, he starts being real picky, and we want our clients to be picky. But you know, if we have to spend an extra 2 days every time in a pissed off customer at the end, it's almost not worth it. Then I get gray hair, and I don't have a dog, but if I had a dog, I'd kick it. And it's so that balance is where we're kind of at right now. Yeah.
How do your rental properties work?
Yeah. Well, okay, we'll get to that right now. But yeah, that's kind of the painting side of it. So we do the painting, and then we have the investment side, which we'll get to now. Do we need to stretch? Everybody stand up, shake it out, tickle each other. Rick likes to be tickled. I saw that in his eye.
Can I tell you what my question would be?
That's not a good sign.
I'm a high school senior. I'd like to start a little business, like, or it,
That resonated with me. I remember that was the
thing. They have a business, like, well, she's like a Asian company. Yeah. So I mean, but she works for somebody else, but she also works for herself. She has like her own separate enterprise. Like, my question to him would be, is like, how do you get started? Like when you were 17, how did you get it? Because it's one thing for him to be $400,000. Why would you that's not. How do I start here? What's your
Post-it notes everywhere.
Right.
All right, here we go. Two more things to wrap this up. To wrap up my painting side. High school customers, CUS, customer service. Okay, this is probably the biggest thing we do. We're providing a service. We're telling these people, hey, we're going to do this. You're going to pay us to do this, and it's going to be done well. Our motto is we don't leave until you're happy. Okay, and there's different levels of happiness with our customers. Trust me. There are people who we get done. Oh, yeah, looks good. They don't say a word. We're like, thanks. It'll be this much. And then there's the people who, I tell you what, we did a job in Lee Summit this summer. And like I said, how we do it is I usually come and do the wood rod on it. My guys come in, we'll paint it, and then I will spend most of the time doing all the touch-up work on it and kind of the finishing stuff and making sure they're happy. And I had to drive back out to Lee Summit probably 5 or 6 times because, I found a spot. I was walking out the other day and when the light's like this, can you redo that? Probably 5 times. Sounds good. Glad to do it. And they're friends. They're friends from high school, actually. His wife, I dated her sister for like 3 years. So we became good friends and everything. She hired us to do that, and I was going to make sure they were happy. Did it suck every time I had to drive to Lee? I live in DeSoto, so it's about a 45, 50-minute drive out to Lee Summit each time. So you're talking an hour and a half of your day just getting out there to do a little thing. And then they're gone from work, and then they come back, and they're like, it's just not done yet. And I'm like, see you tomorrow. And, but you know what? Their check cleared, and they've hired me. I did their interior. I've done their exterior. We stained their fence. We stained their deck while we were there. And she's in the banking world, and she's like, I will refer you to anybody, all of my realtor friends, once you're ready to go big. And talk about expansion. She's like, I can help you out a ton. And I'm like, I'm not there yet because we're still having to drive back to your house 5 times to finish job stuff. So once we can get to the point where we get done and we're done, that's when we can start to expand a little bit. So that's just kind of a point that I as the owner have to ensure to our people that this is going to be well taken care of. Okay, so we got some things on the back. So, the end game. So the goals. Come on in. So, Dave Ramsey plan. I'll help you out, Mr. Webker. What's step 1? $1,000. Emergency fund, right? Okay, so you've got through that. What's number 2?
36 months in expenses.
The debt snowball, we call it.
Pay down a little debt first.
Little debt first. Listing your debts, smallest to largest. Attacking all, paying minimum payments on all of the other debts. And then putting whatever you can on top of it. Okay, I paint a lot, right? I listen to a lot of Dave Ramsey. Just because, I don't know. I haven't mastered everything. But then what's number 3? 3 to 6 months. Come on in, Andy. Jesus. We got all the dignitaries coming in today. President Obama said he might stop by too. Okay, so it's 3 to 6 months of expenses. Okay, Coach Buck and Mama Shield. I guess she's Bucklin now. We're in this. So actually, we're past this. That's good. We're in 4, 5, and 6. We're 4, 5, and 6. You guys got that far yet? This is where life starts to kind of get fun. We got just a little personal business share. We got right around 20 grand in savings. Okay, right now. We're if anything happens, we actually, my mother-in-law went into the hospital last week, and we had some quick stuff we had to pay for. We had to pay a $2,000 check for something, and Beth and I looked at each other. We go, we have the money. 5 years ago, if they would have been an emergency $2,000, I would have gone, I would have said a 4-letter word probably. Okay, and it didn't start with one of those, right? It wouldn't be a prayer. So you get to this, and now this is where we're at. 4, 5, and 6 are 15% of your into retirement. What are the other ones? College, yes. And I think pay off house is last.
No. Molly's right.
What is it? Pay off the house. Okay, put whatever else is extra on the house. All right. We haven't got that far yet. So this is where we're at now. This is the fun part, I think. I guess the fun part's when you're down here, when you're just getting to buy Harleys every other day. But Beth has a great job. She works for KU Endowment. She's, like I said, she's in North Carolina right now asking rich people for money. And she has, and she's got a good job there. So she's got an outstanding retirement. She's got a pension over there, this and that. Have you guys talked about Roth IRAs yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so Coach Bucklin, here you go. Here's some personal business management for you. I started a Roth IRA. My first job at East Union Community Schools, I made $21,000 a year. And if you take that after taxes, I made about $1,200 a month. One of my buddies I played baseball with, his name's Kurt Vitens. I was his first client. He worked for ING. He started with ING. He goes, Bucky, we need to get you a Roth IRA. I go, what the heck's a Roth IRA? He goes, it's gonna make you rich someday. And I go, okay, what do I got to do? And he says, you got to give me. We started at $275 a month. $275 a month for someone making $1,200 a month is a little bit of a stretch. I remember I didn't have cable for the first 4 years out of college. I know in Creston, where I worked, I didn't have cable. And probably for the first 3 years in Kansas City, I didn't have cable because of this. But I put $275 a month away, and my Roth right now, since it started when I was 22, now this wasn't maxing it out. You can put up to $5,500 a year into it, and it's tax-free growth. And mine is projecting out to be $1.4 million by the time I retire. And now, because now we're putting all of our, we're maxing it out every single year. And actually, Coach Webker, I think the first time I talked to this class, he goes, Mr. Bucklin's going to be a millionaire someday. I'm like, yeah, right. It's like, even in my head, I was like, that doesn't make sense to me at all. And then just by my Roth IRA, I'm going to be a millionaire. And that's even, that's if it's, I think that was at the low end. I think the low end was like 1.2 at 8%. And so, and they say the Roths try to get between 9 to 11%-ish. Okay, so at 1.2, Beth and I started looking at each other and that's just the Roth. That's not counting Social Security that we'll get. That's not counting her retirement and all this stuff. And so we kind of looked at each other after we got our 3 to 6 months ready to go, and she started beefing up her retirement. And then we started doing the math. It was like, shoot, we're going to be able to have some fun later in life. And that's why I'm working my rear off now. It's because I would rather work my butt off for the next I say until I'm 55. I want to be able to retire by the time I'm 55. Which, with this, if I keep going on this, the Roth, we'll be well off by the time I'm 60. And then, like I said, she's got a great pension. She's got a great 401k. We realistically could retire when we're 60 and make probably more per month coming in than we do now. Which is kind of cool when you start thinking about this. So, which was cool too, we listened to a lot of Dave Ramsey when we're working. My guys that worked for me, we got a couple cash jobs. which they, just give me an envelope at the end of this, which is kind of nice too. And I'm not going to tell you where the envelope is in my house, but there's a couple vehicles ready to go in there, which is nice too. But they said, Coach, why don't you put that through payroll for me? Because when you put it through you can only put it in your Roth if it goes through payroll tax, and so it's after tax, and so there's like, you know what, I'm gonna keep getting taxed on that, so I can put a portion of that in their Roth. So they're 19 years old and they've already got this started. Some of the people who've taken this class, and they're like, shoot, if I keep doing this now, then I'm gonna be rolling by the time it's ready to retire. And this is with probably, well, shoot, I've been working for 13 years now. So this is with not putting the maximum amount in. That's like $3,800 a year, I think, is $275 a month. So when you get up to, I think it's like $458 or something like that, you got to put in. Is that what it is? $458.33. $458.33 is what you got to put in to max that out every year. So now, what was fun, after my June, I called up Kurt Vitens. I go, Kurt, what do I owe for the rest of my Roth this year? And I got to write a check for it. And then, I got to pay the taxes on it later, but I got to do that. And then that $275 now we're putting into a car fund, and we're going to be able to pay for our next car. We both have cars that, mine has 103,000 miles on it, hers has 111, and we're going to be able to walk into wherever we go and give them an envelope full of money and pay for our cars with cash. And this is part of this personal management stuff that I know Coach Webker is going to teach you about and are learning about. Is how the business got started. And with this end goal in mind of trying to retire with at least some dignity, my dad is 71 years old and he retired 2 years ago. And he was a radio announcer. He loved his job, okay, but he made $24,000, something like, I don't know, something really not a lot of money. And he worked and worked and worked and never did anything extra. And I'm like, shoot, I don't want to be 70 and still working, especially this hard. You've seen me when my back goes out. I'm like, ugh, that kind of stinks. But yeah, we're doing this so that this can happen. And then you have a kid, and they're like, oh crap. How much is college? College, seniors. How much is college per year?
Oh, per year?
Per year.
Like 22.
22-ish. Okay, so KU state.
Yeah.
State school. $20,000 a year right now. So what's 20 times 4? 20 times 4. Man, you guys better go back through.
80.
Okay, 80 grand. So just 80. So when the bean gets to be 18, it's going to be, we're looking at probably, I'm thinking $150,000 I got to have in my college fund for little Miss Ruby to make this happen. And we're doing it. We're putting money away. We got a what do you call it? 529 plan going for little Ruby cubes.
Yeah, something like that.
And
Educational IRA.
yeah.
That money you talked about for your cars, you don't pay for them in cash. How did you save up that money?
We didn't go out to eat.
Like which step?
That's
Did you start
that's
doing
right. Kind of in here.
Okay.
In here, where basically we said that. So once we got our 20 grand in the bank, we said we need to be able. We know we're gonna have to buy vehicles, and so we just started putting above and beyond. We put $800 a month essentially.
That 36
Yep.
months? Okay.
And so it was just that was one of the really hard parts. And my wife doesn't know about all that, so it's gonna be one of her Christmas presents where we're gonna say, hey.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my fault. I forgot to mention that Dave's got what he calls a plan or point 3B, and it comes between 3 and 4. And that's all the stuff like, oh, you know what? My car has got 200,000 miles on it. I should be saving for a new car. That's supposed to be happening at point 3B. All of that type of stuff. Like, oh, you know what? We need to do $5,000 worth of repairs in our house. You're supposed to save for that stuff at 3B.
Right.
Things that are significant, but don't fall into the 7 steps.
Okay. And then with this, so we do some investing as well. we have a rental property. And this is the part that has changed a little bit for our family, is that we started looking at this, and we could pay off our rental property right now. We owe about 25 grand on it. But Mama wants a new house. We live in a little split level ranch out in DeSoto, and we've made the decision that we're just going to let this cash flow itself. There are a lot of, that could be a whole nother class period about rental properties and the adventures in that. But we get $450 for a one bedroom apartment, we get $550 for the two bedroom. They're both going to be occupied October 1st, so that's $1,000 a month. Okay, so that's another $12,000 essentially that we're making on this. This is where our long-term investment is going to be for Miss Ruby Cubes. Okay, we put $50 a month in her college savings right now, and then this is going to be basically her cash cow. We put all of the rental property money in a separate account, and we just let it sit there until we do one of two things. One, we buy a new home. Our house is worth probably around $165,000 right now. We owe $106 on it, and so we have about 50. What is that?
59. Sorry.
Okay, $59,000 in equity in it. So a couple years from now, what's 12,000 times 2? So 24,000 plus that. I mean, we're going to the point where we're going to be able to put around $100,000 down on our next house, and so we could essentially own about a $250,000 house and pay the same amount that we do now on a hundred. As a 100, I refinance. That's a whole other story. But refinanced at about 130 some. So it starts to work out where now. So again, we got 13 minutes left. We're going to kind of wrap this up and maybe ask some questions at the end. But this whole business thing started as a personal finance issue. Okay? So where we started to say, or I myself said, I want to be able to live comfortably when I'm older. I want my kids to be able to go to college without having, and you saw my 5-year plan, I had $9,000 of college debt when I was 30 years old, which kind of stinks, you know. And so I was like, this is not going to, and that's with getting a baseball scholarship and having my parents pay for some of it. And so we started this personal finance thing and then had to do the extra work. And the extra work is now starting to pay off. It's getting to the point where we can look at each other and basically now we have daycare. That's a whole other story too. But because when we didn't have the kid, good God, we were kicking it. Okay, she makes good money, and we were going pretty good. That whole kid thing. But we start to get to the point now where we're not reactive in life, and you haven't been there yet. But when you have to react to everything in your life, whereas if something happens and I'm like, oh crap, now what? So there's an emotional something that clicks in your head and your heart. That doesn't happen anymore, to a point. I mean, obviously you're going to roll with things, and we're not millionaires by any means. I mean, there's probably people, parents in this room who might bring home $1 million a year and like, this is freaking potatoes to you guys. But this is someone who went to college, made a good wage, and then just decided, screw that, I want to be a little more secure, and so I had to work a whole lot more to make it happen. And this rental property goes with this. So we're making some investments. This is in Atchison, so if you guys ever go to Benedictine and want to go off campus, let me know. We had some students in there last year from Benedictine, our students. And then we had a couple other guys who we would rather not have as tenants ever again. You can ask me about that another time, but we'll just say the police department of Atchison knows me on a first name basis. And
I think we're
but we've got and we'd like to, if Mama doesn't spend all the money when we buy our next house, we'd like to continue to do some rental properties, because it's one of those things that we pay $387 in mortgage every month on that, and we can, if we don't have renters in there, we can pay that no problem. But we know that I bought it for $38,000, and I know that I can probably get my $38,000 out of that house whenever I go to sell it. So it's kind of one of those things where, yeah, we lose some of the interest on it that we pay, but at the end of the day, we're going to have a $30,000 piece of property, making $12,000 a year on it, and then we can, once we get it paid off, we can realistically cash flow our next one, where, if we buy another one at equal or less of value, or probably a little bit more, we're going to be able to just do the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Coach Siggs, I know, has some rental properties, and they're trying to get to this point where they're getting them paid off. Because once you get them paid off, obviously, then it just cash in your pocket. It's kind of nice. I talked to a man who is very, very friendly to St. James Academy, who's a gazillionaire. And I bought him lunch one day, and he goes, "Brian, it's like, there's a guy that I know, he's like you. He started when he was in his 30s, and he's got about 25 rental properties now, and he doesn't know what to do with all of his money, because he gets to the point where it just like, you have this pile come in every month, and then if you don't do anything with it, next month it goes, and then you just keep pooping out $20,000 bills every month. If you've got 20-some rental properties," and he goes like, the guy, he goes golfing all over the world because he can. He's retired, and just like he doesn't think about money anymore. And are we going to have 20 rental properties? I don't know. I'd like to have maybe 5 to 7 by the time, I think I put it in there, by the time I'm 55, or by the time I'm 45, in 10 years from now. If we can pay off about, and this will be paid off by the end of next summer, hopefully. It depends on if Mama wants to buy a house sooner or later, but she's kind of got house fever. Yeah.
Should these guys try to do a 5-year plan for themselves?
I don't know. I didn't figure that out until I was 30. But I would say this, and I think, gosh, looking back, as an 18-year-old dude, I didn't know any of this stuff. My parents never talked to me about money. That's why I was very, kind of open with this stuff, because I walked out of college. I had Kurt Vitens say, "Hey, have you ever heard of an IRA?" I'm like, "I don't know what that is," because I always had my own money. I worked, like I said, I always worked, so I always had cash in my pocket. But it was always just kind of live on. It was kind of, I'm going to go get a pizza type of money. But then it was, for you guys in this class, and to have some thought, and the fact that some of my guys that work for me went through this class and were thinking of some of that stuff, I'm like, dude, you guys are going to be way more secure if you stay on it. And you have to be disciplined with it, too, because we have money coming in, and we're taking a vacation to Lake Travis outside of Austin. You guys ever been there before? It's a big lake. It's beautiful. We're going with some friends. And it is all being taken care of by mileage points. And I have a credit card. I've never had a credit card in my life until 4 years ago when I started this business. And I was like, I don't know if I can swing all this, but I needed some help here and there on some things. And I've never paid $1 of interest on it, and have made almost over $2,000. I have about $1,300 sitting there right now in points, and Capital One has not made $1 off of me, other than I think it's $50 a year for it. But never had credit card debt or anything like that, and that was huge. And getting through college without a credit card, that was a big thing too, because you go on a college campus, every corner there's someone trying to throw you a free T-shirt to sign up for a credit card, and I never had it because I knew that I couldn't ask my parents for money. I mean, we didn't have a lot of money, and so the fact that I knew I had to always be very independent financially was what is kind of probably what led to this, because I've always worked. I've always been fine with working. I've always liked to have money in my pocket, and have never had the mom or dad to fall back on as my safety net. So I would say for you guys, try to get through college as far as you can without building up any debt as you can, credit cards or student loans or that. And college choice is a big part of that. I mean, if you want to go to Benedictine, it's $35,000 a year to go up there. If you go to JUCO for 2 years, it's $2,500. So I don't know. It's kind of up to you. You got 5 minutes. Strader, you got a big question? You just thinking this is boring?
So you charge $550 a month for a 2-bedroom.
Mm-hmm. It's really
Is
nice.
it like an apartment or is it like a condo?
It's an apartment.
That's pretty cheap for 2
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's in Atchison, though. I mean, it's all about
That's a good point.
what's the word? Supply and demand. Location. It's. But I mean,
wages of living.
well, if you would plot this structure in the middle of Johnson County, it'd be $150,000.
Yeah.
And I would never be able to buy it. So it's kind of. I bought the most house I could for my money, and the best return of investment I could for my money, because I knew that it was like if I can make $1,000 a month on a where my mortgage payment's only that, I'm making $600 a month. That's really good when you're looking at rental property.
Probably the smartest thing to do with rental properties too is try to get a place like that on a college campus, because there's always going to be kids that want to
Yeah.
campus.
Yeah, and so there should be. Eduardo?
Where in Ashland, your house?
401 North 7th Street.
Really?
So it's 2 blocks north of Willie's there. It's a big white brick one, has a big,
Yep.
you know where it's at?
Is that the one with the hot tub inside of it or no?
So what's that? The hot tub? We have a hot tub? No, we don't have a hot tub. Rock.
All the people who rent your properties, do they all come to you, or do you do any advertising?
Good question. So I wanted to, I started Facebooking all of the St. James Academy graduates. Actually, that's how I started. And then once I didn't get any students this year, and so then I just did it on apartments.com, because I wanted people who actually use technology to be in my, because just putting a sign out in the yard, sometimes you get a little, the people who are walking by usually try to ask about that. So we do the electronic route. Yeah. Did you? Oh.
I just blanked. Sorry.
So yeah, it's the rental properties are an interesting animal.
Okay. Oh, I got one after
Yes.
You don't understand that. You make a stupid amount of money that way.
They pay a security deposit. So my 1 bedroom pays $450, and so at the end, if there's anything wrong that I have to fix, then I just charge them for whatever it costs at the end. This guy, the guy up top, he didn't get anything back because he was a dirtbag. Okay, and he said, "See ya."
So for like their electrical bills and water bills and like homeowners insurance, do you pay for all that?
No,
Do
they
that
pay for all
there?
the they don't pay homeowners insurance or renters. You can buy rental insurance, so in case something weird happens, your stuff's taken care of. But they pay heat, water, gas
On top of that. For
on
you
top
pay
of that.
your
Yeah,
rent.
so get ready for that. That stuff starts to get going.
Well, do you hold in like homeowners insurance on the property also?
Yeah, you have to, that's
And
all.
then you have 2 sets of insurance for one.
Yeah, it's all worked into this. It's called a escrow account. I don't know if you guys talk about that, but basically the insurance company and mortgage company just roll all that together in just one payment. It's pretty easy. But yeah, you guys as college people, it's like you guys will be renting these places, and that's what kind of rolls up a little bit, Get 6 of your friends and buy a 2-bedroom apartment and just, cuddle. You make a lot of money.
Oh.
Yeah, you got one? Nicole? Got 1 minute.
One thing I'd really like my class to do, maybe both if you think this would be good, is would you guys jot down either a question or a takeaway? Because I just think we had a ton of awesome information, and it would be a shame if you forgot just like a key takeaway. Would you do that for yourself?
My class can do that too. We'll talk about it next class.
Yeah.
Okay, so parting remarks. Thank you, and you know, just know that it can be done. You got to work hard though. Okay, that's one of the biggest things. If you can do extra stuff, especially in college, pick up a part-time job, whatever. You know, $10 an hour here and there, it all helps. So, thank you guys, and good luck with all that.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Well, I think on one of these